Hello, everybody, and I want to welcome you to the Deadhead Rev, a lovely view from heaven podcast. This is Reverend Andy Campbell, and I am so grateful, no pun intended, that you have joined us. The reason that we're doing this is because I started a sermon series at my church here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where I explored my spirituality and my love of the Grateful Dead. I think I first listened to him in 1977. I know I saw my first show in 1979 in Indianapolis. Loved the band ever since. And later on, I became a minister. And it's about time, I thought that maybe I combined the love I had for both, because to me, it makes all the sense in the world. So I can't preach a Grateful Dead sermon every week at church, although I would love to. And the music and all of that will certainly influence me. It always has. But I wanted to continue, particularly with the online community that has been so generous with me with their time and support and love. And so it seemed like a natural outreach to continue this in some way, to continue reach out to you who have expressed your support and your interest in what I've been doing. So the reason I want to tell you is this may or may not be the first podcast, is that's up to my new friend. And I want to thank right now Reverend Ian Lynch. Ian is a UCC pastor out in Maine, and he reached out to me as, helping give birth to this idea. And it was something that I had in the back of my mind. And what I did is I found a guy who is just fantastic with production. So, and I've given him the nickname Bird Songs because we had to wait for an appointment one time to meet over a Zoom meeting because he was out bird watching, and that was just a natural thing. So Reverend Ian Birdsong Lynch is the producer of this, and so I want to thank him in advance. So here's how things are going to go. Each week, we're going to talk about a particular song of the Grateful Dead, and I'll let you know that today is going to be the song Throwing Stones. And so I'm going to do a little bit of analysis and talk about the meaning of the song and what I know about it. And then I'm going to bring aboard a guest. Sometimes it's somebody I might know. Other times I've met some of you online who have volunteered, and I look forward to conversations with you. And the guests are going to come and share their stories. They're going to maybe share a particular version, a particular performance of their favorite song that is going to be important to them, maybe a particular one. And so we're going to roll down the road with some new people and some new friends. We're going to share stories. And I do want to preface something else. I am indeed a Christian minister. I am an ordained minister. I went to seminary. I have been doing this for over 20 years as a minister. But I am in no means, I'm only a Christian, and this podcast is not for Christians only. I understand, everybody has their different sense of spirituality. I remember when I was working at a hospital one time, we had an interfaith group of chaplains that would always come to the hospital and book there. And one of the rabbis she said something one time that I thought was so vital. She said, it'll probably be something like we all get to heaven and there's going to be a Buddhist monk there saying, you got this close, this close. And, the way I look at things is I do believe in a destination. I do believe that each of us has a soul, and I feel it through the music. But the one thing I learned is if anybody ever went to Deer Creek, nobody got there from the same direction. Nobody ever got there from the same. Being from Indianapolis, I learned very on that if that was your destination, you could come from every different direction. That's kind of the way I feel. For me, my destination follows through my love of Jesus, and like the music and the stories of the Grateful Dead and all of the things that they do, the Bible is important. Do I want to beat people up with it? Absolutely not. So yeah, I guess I'm one of those woke ministers that people might complain about. That being the case, I wear that head as proudly as I wear the Steelies. How you doing, Ian?
Hey, I'm fine. How are you, Andy?
I'm doing okay. You ready to start this podcast thing?
As ready as I'll ever be.
Yeah.
Is anyone ever ready?
No, I suppose not. I guess the first times we do it is going to be the most difficult for us. That'll be the toughest ones to do. But, we're going to soldier on. And hopefully nobody throws any stones at us today.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah. Yeah. What's our song for today, Ian?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe throwing stones?
Throwing stones. Yeah. Folks, we don't know how this is going to end up, but Ian and I are going to do our best to put together some good content for you. At least I hope so. Hope it gives you some reason to come back.
Hey, it'll be content. What you make of it is up to you, right?
That's true. That's
There we
true.
go.
We're going to have fun. We're going to listen to some music. And, the best part of this is having a new great friend in Ian, as this got started, who's working with me on this project. So Ian, thank you. I appreciate you very much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I enjoyed your sermon series. Totally going to rip it off. I mean, cover it. And we're all in this together, right? It's all for the greater good. That's why we do this.
Maybe I can be a traveling evangelist and, go around the country and do that. No, I like Tulsa. I like Tulsa.
You already are,
Yeah.
because we got the technology. That's the thing. I mean, our paths at some point probably would cross, given enough time, given the circles we run in. But here we are crossing in 2D instead of 3D, and that's cool.
Go. Well, let's get on with this initial episode and see how this goes, folks. Are you ready?
I am as ready as I'm going to be. Let's do it.
Let's do it. One of the things about throwing stones that I found a little bit interesting as I was doing research about it is so much of the Grateful Dead catalog comes from the early songs written, Working Man's Dead, and of course, American Beauty were so many of the classic ones that became, regular part of the repertoire. And we're going to be talking a lot about those songs, but Throwing Stones was something that was written in 1982. And this is what's so interesting for Deadheads know this, but we all know that when Touch of Grey became the hit that made them MTV famous, that they'd been playing that song for years, that it wasn't a new song. So yes, indeed, the Dead started playing Throwing Stones in 1982, but it wasn't released, I believe. It was either Built to Last or In the Dark 87. And I can get somebody to fact check that for me. If comment, you can feel free to comment anything that you think I might be getting wrong. Feel free to do that. But it's amazing to think about what that song, John Barlow and Bob Weir, working on it. And we know Barlow, wrote all the lyrics, what they were saying then and how it resonates even now. And it's such a beautiful song. And it's almost shameful to think that they had that vision in 82 that still is so vital today. The words haven't changed at all. The context is still there and it's so important. It begins with the bright blue ball, and it draws us in and we get that image of something just beautiful. And always talking about that bright blue ball that it comes down to and knowing that it's the planet Earth. And we've all grown up in the space age. And, you think about 1982 and Barlow, these are people who got to grow up first seeing those images of Earth from outer space. I think it's something we take for granted that some, older folks, that was new stuff, I was born in 1964. I remember the, moon landing, barely watching as a child, but I think everybody resonates with that idea that indeed from the outside in the context, this is the bright blue ball we live in. And it was a concern. Of course, the problem is when you take a closer look, it's the human race. And to me, that's the part that resonates with me spiritually, that it's the responsibility that we have as human beings. There's so many different scriptures that talk about us having stewardship of the earth. I'll let you know locally, I'm going to be doing a sermon series at my church about climate and everything coming up in April. But when I hear this song, it's such a reminder that we do have this responsibility. And that when you do look at the history of humanity, and this is not something that's hidden from the Bible, is that there's pain, there's suffering, there's war. And in all of it, God is looking to us to do the right thing. And it's a difficult song and proliferation of war and all of the other things we do. And it's a frustration that goes along with it. And so the message of the song is that we have opportunities to make a difference. That we have the choice, picturing the possibilities. And I love the way it ends back with it comes back to that idea that yes, we still have hope. And I think that's the message I hope to take away with it. I never feel I don't ever want somebody to listen to the Grateful Dead and walk away feeling depressed. I don't want anybody leaving church feeling horribly depressed. And all this is a song that, there's a lot of realization that the planet is in our hands. It shouldn't be doom or gloom. Yeah, I was thinking the other day that most of us have grown up in a world where we know that we do have that possibility to destroy the earth, the nuclear age. And, Barlow and we're growing up, these were people that certainly had the nuclear war drills in their classrooms that they probably had to sit under their desks and try to, you know, and like the gun drills that our kids have today, how different was it? We speak a lot about that, the idea that the active shooter drills have to have an impact on children. Well, what was the impact on my older brothers? Because I'm right at the edge of a baby boom. Having to go through those nuclear drills. I remember the signs and the fallout shelters and the idea that it wasn't going to make much of a difference. And I'm wondering if 82 was about the time the movie The Day After came. That was a big one on TV, or it wasn't too long, where basically Lawrence, Kansas and a bunch of other places, I think, got blown off the map in a nuclear holocaust. Anyway, back to the song, Throwing Stones. It does point out that we have the possibilities. One of the great things, though, is that if you get to see her some live performances, that this song is fantastic. And one of the other things I love about this song, besides the message, is that if you're there at a live performance and you hear the beginning of this song and many others, ooh, it's going to be a sing-along. And so there are parts of the song that are just a lot of fun for people to sing along with. And that particular hook is, the kids, they dance, they shake their bones, and the politicians throwing stones, singing ashes, ashes, all fall down. And the crowd repeats, ashes, ashes, all fall. I can't help but think of the ashes of a nuclear winter. What's interesting is if you know any allusion to nursery rhymes, there was one that you may have heard about, ring around the rosy, pocket full of posy, ashes, ashes, all fall down. For some reason, that came to my mind and resonated, that image of the ashes, ashes, all fall down. Is that the origin? So I looked up the origin of the nursery rhyme, having made the connection with it. And yeah, nursery rhymes never usually come from really great situations and stories, let's face it. And those kind of tales for children, they're not always pleasant. And I found out that the ashes, ashes, all fall down, pocket full of posies, things was a nursery rhyme that was developed as long ago as the bubonic plague, that it was a thing that was sung around that. And I think that's enough information. Just thought that was kind of interesting. The image comes. Some great versions of it. I always loved it when that song was played. There was one I remember in 1989 up at Alpine Valley that I got to see. It was just a fun one. And again, like I said, they just did such a great way of spacing their songs together and get those sing-alongs, the pace of a Grateful Dead song. This was always a welcome addition because it got you dancing. It was fast paced and when I'd listen to the lyrics and sing along, because I was one of those, I was singing at all the shows whenever I could. As bad as my voice was, I was there trying to sing along. Those lyrics were so powerful, the idea of the war, a whole world full of petty wars and singing, you got mine and I've got mine, you've got yours. All of it is just, it's painful, and the selfishness of humanity, and you're singing along with it. And when they're going, ashes, ashes, all fall down, it's almost a sense of nihilism, that the fatality of it. But still, at the end, picture that bright blue ball spinning, spinning free, dizzy with eternity. dizzy with possibilities. It's up to us, you know. I love the message of the song. I got to tell you, I can't stretch enough to go find any direct biblical references, but John Barlow certainly was a person who wrote some songs, and there'll be some more stuff about that in the future. But love the song. Share your favorite version. I went down a rabbit hole the other day. I said, how do I find the best version of Throwing Stones? And I got to tell you, there are forums out there that everybody wants to do it. And so if this is a place that you feel like you want to share a particular version that you like, I know my guest has already told me, likes a version from Nassau in 1990. And so we're going to have some fun with this. My first guest is a gentleman who lives in Carmel, Indiana. His name is Allen Ernst. And Allen, one of the things I do know about you is you are something of a sports fan. And I want to know, what do you think of the rumor that whoever wins the Super Bowl this year will decide whether it's Taylor Swift or Bob Dylan, the Grateful Dead, who get the residency at the Sphere this summer? I mean, do you have an opinion? Do you have a take on that?
Well, I think you know what my take would be. You're gonna make me cheer.
I got it.
Gonna make me cheer for the 49ers, aren't you?
It's a fun side story, isn't it?
That would be highly entertaining. I would love. The rumor's been out there. We're only hoping it can happen.
Right. So anyway, I need to ask you right off the bat, how did you become a fan of the Grateful Dead?
Well, I was a little bit of a late bloomer in that regard. I grew up in a small town, southern Indiana. So, there was both a lot of country music that I grew up around. Get some Allman Brothers and stuff. And me being, 16, 17, I'm also listening to band music, REO Speedwagon, things of that nature, right? I get to IU at 17 and I'm hanging out at my fraternity. There's this room at the third level of fraternity, and they're always jamming out this music, and they're doing other things up there too. But I decided to sneak up there one time. And lo and behold, I met you that day in that room. And that was my first introduction to the Dead. I mean, I'm sure I'd heard Truckin' and, things like that, but never really paid much attention to it. But I became much more engrossed in it. And that's when I kind of fell in love over the course of that year.
I've had a few people blame me for their Dead experience. But I know that's still the case. So what was the first show that you went to? Do you remember first concert?
Oh, yeah. Actually, you were involved in that one too, amazingly enough. It was been 1988 in Indianapolis.
Okay, so that would have been at Deer Creek. Would that have been the first?
Maybe
place?
Maybe 89. Maybe 89.
We'll have to go check out that set list and what you got to hear, because I can't remember, particularly what that show was, but Deer Creek was such a great place that we were blessed to have, wasn't it?
It's still a great facility, even under different names. It's still a great facility.
It's still Deer Creek.
Yeah, always.
It's. I don't know if you knew this, that they only played 3 times at Market Square Arena during its existence. 1976, 1979, which was the first show I got to go to, and then in 81.
Really?
Got to see that one as well. Yeah, they opened with Alabama Getaway in 81. And that was my first time seeing Brent, so it was kind of a fun thing. But we got blessed, like a lot of communities, that they did decide to build a good amphitheater. And to me, those outdoor shows, there was something different between an indoor and outdoor show.
For sure.
So what about the last show that you saw? What was the most recent one? We could share that story as well.
With Dead and Company. I'm assuming you're referring to.
Yeah.
Fantastic experience. I knew they were coming. We bought tickets a year in advance as soon as they came on the market. Ended up having an extra one. So I got a hold of an old friend who decided to make it, 9-10 hour roadie over, and had a blast. It was just like old times. And
it was fun.
The band Dead and Company was as good as they've been. They maybe weren't as sharp for a couple of years, but this last tour, they tore it up, and it was a lot of fun. Met a lot of fun people in the parking lot, as always. And just had a blast. What can I say? was great. It was great having you come out.
It was fun, and I really appreciated your hospitality. For everybody who doesn't know this, Alan did one thing in his life to make sure that that Grateful Dead experience that I had, the Dead and Company, was just as smooth and easy as could be. He married Carmen, and she takes care of all of the arrangements. I mean, it's an amazing thing to go because that isn't the first time that I think I've gone with you and Carmen, and she makes sure that the arrangements are made, and it's just we're both blessed to have married up
She's on point.
and have that.
I'm not, but she is on point.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And that's a great thing. I love that you and your wife, get to experience this, and you've gone to shows. And it's not just that; it's this scene has taken you to see a lot. The whole festival scene is something that you kind of grew out of this, isn't it?
No, absolutely. Just the environment. I started going to festivals like the second or third Bonnaroo festivals are sort of dead for a while, but I guess that was probably in 2002 ish. Bonnaroo kicked off, maybe in 2000. I didn't go to the first one, but the second one I went to, and then the third one that played there, and it was in an I mean, it was in the biggest downpour. Can't believe a band's actually playing during all of this. We were so from head to toe. It probably rained 3 inches during the course of the 2 hour show, 3 hour show. But it was phenomenal. I mean, people were dancing, spinning, rolling in the mud. I mean, it was Woodstock all over again.
I'm ashamed to say my oldest son Matt was there and wasn't with you dancing. He was at another stage. I tried.
Yeah.
I tried. I
So
really
you
did.
do all you can.
So you do all you can with it. So, you've seen quite a few shows, and the whole scene, how many cover bands, and it's just been this amazing phenomenon. One of the things about me is what I do on Sundays, and my connection with this spirituality and all of that. You and I have known each other long enough that I know that um, life inside church wasn't always something real easy for you. Your experience was somewhat toxic. You saw
Yes.
people not being very Christ-like in your life that proclaim to follow Jesus, and it's a very difficult thing. I'm curious, knowing me for this time, has it had any effect on softening your stance against the church to know that there are some folks out there that, can find the good vibe and really try to do the things that are possible?
No. I'm not what I would call anti-church. I wouldn't categorize myself as such. I don't follow the beliefs of the church, and there are
Mhm.
some churches that I would be anti, of course. But there's always been,
Me too. Me too. There's
I
plenty
I
of them
know,
I'm anti.
and there's always been an element that I can appreciate. I mean, the ones who live
Yeah.
life the way that I think Jesus is said to have lived his life. That's wonderful. I mean, I hang with you guys all day long. That's the other side of it.
I'll agree. Yeah.
But that calls
So I just wanted to ask that question because for the listeners, to know that Al and I have been friends for ages. And, despite how I choose to follow Jesus and how he chooses to, he's still my best friend, and he'd still probably preach at my funeral
Oh,
if asked to. Yeah.
no,
So
that
that kind of
would
thing, just to let you know, as a minister that, I hate to be representing a monolith of some sort, and I'm not, and just know that there are, and finding the spirituality and the message and the music is just such a great thing to be able to do. So speaking of music, see, this is the professional podcaster doing a segue. Let's talk about the song that you chose. You wanted to talk about the song "Throwing Stones," and can you speak a little bit why you chose that particular song?
huh. I just love it. I love the first thing that drew me to that song was the sound. The not the harmonies, but just the rhythm of the music. I really, before I ever knew the words to that song, back 35 years ago, 40 years ago, uh, yeah, right at 40 years ago, I just really enjoyed listening to it. And then I didn't know all the words, and I was probably 10 years before I actually knew the words to that song, well, and wow, this song's a little bit deeper than what I thought. Maybe a little what a lot of songs are. So the lyrics aren't what drew me to it. It was the sound of this drew me to it. But now that I know the lyrics, I find them pretty on point.
pretty amazing. The song was written in 1982,
Mhm.
and it is a Brent Midland and Bob Weir compilation. Not Brent, I'm sorry, John Barlow. And Ian, you can edit that out, if you want to, or
Please.
make like I don't know everything. Yeah. But yeah, it was one of those songs that was like a lot of Dead songs. It wasn't released on an album until 1987,
Mhm.
but they were playing it in 1982, and it was kind of fun that I'm sure I had seen the song performed a couple of times before it was ever released. And I think it was on To Last or In the Dark. I can't remember which of those two later studio releases it was, but it's like, what a great jam. And you're right. I think with me too, when you heard the first notes of Throwing Stones, I mean, it got you
Oh,
moving.
absolutely. It was a
Just,
dancing song.
and
Yeah.
yeah. And also, what I like to call a sing along.
Yes.
Where you were going to be singing "Ashes, Ashes, All Fall
Yeah.
Down." The kids, they dance, they shake their bones, and the
This is
politicians
throwing
throwing
stones.
stones, singing "Ashes, Ashes, All Fall Down," and we would repeat "Ashes, Ashes, All Fall Down." It was great.
And when it would close,
I imagine it's like Red Sox fans when Neil Diamond comes on. But, I'm curious. I did some research on the lyrics. The "Ashes, Ashes, All Fall Down." I'm pretty sure you recognize that comes from a nursery rhyme.
Yes. Ring around the rosy.
Ring around the rosy, pockets full of posy, ashes, ashes, all fall down. Any idea of the origin of that?
The Black Plague.
Bubonic plague. Yeah. Like most nursery rhymes, it's kind of a.
Mother Goose was a little bit on the rough
we,
side.
we think they're good for children. We think it's wonderful to listen to, and kind of like that prayer that kids did. Now I lay me down to sleep. If I should die before I wake, what?
A little harsh. A little
Kind of
harsh.
craziest. Yeah, a little bit strange. Part of the lyrics also, if you think about them written in 1982 and you listen to them again in 2024, prophetic. Is the one word that comes to me. And I'm not sure, if you go and concentrate on the lyrics right away, if it's really much of an uplifting song.
It's not.
To me, it's almost. But to me, it almost is in the nature of them talking about like a parable, because the opening of the song talks about the bright blue ball, the
Spinning. Yeah.
clouds and trees and all of that and all the beauty. A peaceful place, though it looks from space, a closer look
Reveals
the
human
human
race.
race. Yeah, and it's just like,
And we screw it all
And
up. Yeah.
to me, it's a moment when Jesus is teaching, when all of a sudden he says something outrageous and it slaps you and wakes you up. And to me, that's the line in the song, that when we look at this beautiful blue planet and we look close enough, we see the flaws and they are us.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
And I don't think
then
there's
it's
any
just the
mistake in that
laundry
being
list.
true. Yeah. The earth is going to be a lot happier when we're gone.
And just the imagery of the wars and the darkness.
And the greed. Yeah.
The darkness never goes from some men's eyes. And it's just, it's rough. It's difficult because, again, a song that was written so long ago just still echoes today. I guess it really, the grand scheme of the world, it isn't that long ago, but it probably could have been written 100 years earlier.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, because the essence of the song is just, we're talking about, the greed of the human race, the disregard for others, the disregard for the planet, et cetera, et cetera. And that's always
Certainly,
existing.
That prophetic thing about climate change, seems to be there too. And I know the Dead were very, very quick to the game of having concerns about the planet.
For sure.
Yes, always. Not that they probably didn't fly jets that used all those fossil fuels, and somebody will freak out. But that's not their fault. That's for their own safety.
I think they're more bus people.
Oh, they were they?
Yeah.
That's for certain. So anyway, well, I really appreciate you coming and taking the time today to share with us. We had talked about some favorite versions of the song, Throwing Stones. And I know we got one that hopefully Ian's going to queue up for us after this. I thought we could do the thing where the song plays and you and I sit here and bob our heads to it, but nobody wants to watch that. I don't think anybody's. And if you're looking for somebody to have a reaction of watching the Grateful Dead, those are other channels out there. Plenty of them. And they're kind of fun to listen to, actually.
Never done that.
Yeah, you get, it's a lot of younger people. Then somebody is turning them on to, music.
Where
That
you
will
wear
stop.
headphones or whatever, and you can see it moving, or
Yeah, and they're listening, and they'll stop, and it's kind of
yeah.
fun. Uh, I've never heard them diss on any of the songs they ever listen to. I want somebody to honestly say on something they're listening to, going, "That's terrible.
Just don't say it on dark
Who's
stuff.
listening to
Just-
that?" But never know who can do that. Alan, Opie, I appreciate you not sharing too many stories. The idea of mutually assured destruction, if you started telling stories about me and I started telling stories about you, and we could really, hold those over each other. No, I think we've never done anything we would have ever have been afraid to have done in front of either of our lungs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As long as you're living,
And I could always
as long as
live.
you're living right here. I mean, you could do stupid stuff. Just don't do stupid being stuff.
Right. Yeah. One of the things that is dawned on me as late is that, this has been going on for a long time, and you and I have gotten a little bit longer in the tooth as this has gone on.
Yeah.
We're hitting some milestones in age, and we've been around for a few years, and you start, we got a lot of people who will watch this who never saw Jerry, and that's awesome. That's fine.
Mhm.
You don't have to have seen Jerry to get into the
Oh,
scene.
absolutely not.
I mean, I don't dog anybody out because I got to see Donna 2 weeks before she quit. I mean, that
That's
doesn't
something
give
to
me
really
any
be proud
props.
of.
Yeah, I want to tell you, go ahead, go on the internet, look at February 3rd, 1979. She sounded good. I'm not joking. And I thought, that was my first show, Market Square Arena. I was about 10 rows up on the side of the stage. So
Mhm.
I was over by Phil, and she was up, over at the other end, and they sounded fine. I got to hear Scarlet Fire and all
Nice.
kinds of good stuff.
It's a good.
Yeah, I mean,
Good way to break
I look
yourself
at the
in.
set list, and it's no wonder that I fell in love with the band. I love looking at somebody's first show, and you can say to them, "Wow, that was some." No wonder, no wonder. So I'm gonna have to go to that '88 Deer Creek show and look at what it
Pull it
was.
up. See,
That was a
88
bunch of
or
us from
89.
work together too. That's the other thing that we haven't shared is we did work together at a
We
restaurant
did.
for a while,
We did.
and those are probably some of the stories that need to remain quiet.
It might have been.
Alan, I want to thank you for being here. Tell Carmen I said hello and your kids.
will.
And I'll get to Indiana sometime in the next year or so. I mean, I got a kid getting married. He's going to probably expect me to be there.
I just think he's probably counting on it. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully. So we'll see. And again, thank you for being here. And I appreciate you are the first guest, and you've made it. You set the bar pretty high. I appreciate your engagement on things.
Appreciate your generosity.
All right. Alan, you take care, be grateful, and know that every once in a while you get shown the light in the strangest of places if you look at it right.
Yeah.
Picture a bright blue water spinning free, dizzy with eternity, painted with a skin and sky brushes of cloud sea, home for you and me. Peaceful place, where soil looks from space. A closer look reveals the human race. Full of graces, the human face. We're free. They are home to waste. 'Cause there's a fear down here we can't forget. Hasn't got a name just yet. Always awake, always around. Singing ashes, ashes all around. Singing ashes, ashes all. Watches the ball revolves and the nighttime falls. And again the heart begins, and again the blood wind calls. By and by again, the morning sun will rise. But the darkness never goes from some men's eyes. Oh no, no! Rolls the sidewalks and it rolls the streets. just you and me. You and me. Oh, big flash played in ghetto night. Rudy's looking for a fight. Rat cat alley roll and bone. Need that cash to feed that Jones. And the politicians throwing stones, singing ashes, ashes, all fall down, singing. Commissars and pinstripe bosses roll the dice. Any way they fall, guess who gets to pay the price? Money green or proletarian gray, selling guns instead of food a day. So the kids play dance, they shake their thumbs, and the politicians throwing stones, singing ashes, ashes, all fall, singing ashes, ashes, all fall down. Harvest powers try to tell us what to think. If the spirit's sleeping, then the flesh is ink. Hey! History's pitch, ruminating, carved in stone. The future's here. We are in it. We are on our own. 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 We are on our own. 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 On our take the blame. We will leave this place and end the storm with a shining board of blue we can call our home. Stay with the kids, they dance dance, they shake their bones. And the politicians throwing stones, singing ashes, ashes, all fall down, singing. Black goes south and white goes north. You the whole world full of petty war. Yes, I got mine and you got yours. In the current fashion set the pace. Lose your step, fall out of grace. The radical, you like to rage, you rage. See someone turn the page. And the rich man is summer home. So you just leave when you're not alone. But his price is down, it's coming alone. When the politicians throwing stones, through the kids they dance, they shake their bones. Cause it's all too clear we're on our own. Singing ashes, ashes, I'll fall down. Picture a bright blue ball just spinning, spinning free. It's dizzying, the possibilities. Ashes, ashes, all fall down. Ashes, ashes, all fall down. Singing ashes, ashes, all fall down. Ashes, ashes, all fall down. Singing ashes, ashes, all fall down. Ashes, ashes, all fall down. Singing ashes, ashes, all fall down. 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 Ashes, all fall down. Singing ashes, ashes, all fall down. Singing ashes, ashes, all fall down. Singing ashes, ashes, all fall down.
Well, I tell you what, I don't think anybody was injured or hurt so far in the creation of this podcast. I think we're all kind of safe, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have any scars. I don't, no messes to clean up.
I guess we probably can't promise that nobody got stoned because, we haven't checked with all the listeners, but
Well, I'm hoping somebody does.
someone probably did. Yeah.
Maybe I'm looking at a future, sponsor for the show. That comes out for that. So, well, I'm glad you got to meet my friend Allen and got to hear our conversation and all of that. What'd you think, Ian? How things went?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't be much of a Grateful Dead theologian if I didn't challenge your exegesis a little bit,
Go right ahead. Add to
What-
it. You're not challenging, you're supplementing.
Oh, there you go. I like that. Yes. Yeah, that's right. We're all in this together. And,
Yeah.
it was interesting. You made the comment about Barlow not really having much biblical reference in this, missing kind of the obvious title that, let the one who was without sin cast the first stone.
Yeah.
Maybe if it were called casting stones, we would catch it a little more. But
I guess maybe I don't think about throwing stone. I maybe the short story, The Lottery, was coming to mind. You remember that one.
or the Monty Python take on the stuff, right? The blasphemy and throwing the stone, and he keeps saying God's name, and they keep throwing stones at him or whatever. Yeah, that's where we get with throwing stones, don't we? Which is exactly what Jesus was saying, wasn't it?
There's the old joke.
There is nobody without sin.
Yeah.
Right.
There's the old joke. I remember that, Jesus says, he without sin cast the first stone. The rock comes up and hits him in the head. And he says, Mom, would you quit following me around?
Yeah. Depending on your theology, that works.
That's a little old school.
That's right.
Yeah, we won't go to that kind of
But
stuff.
yeah, isn't that interesting that we're so quick to throw stones, which really is the point. And whether it's biblical story or whether it's Grateful Dead tune, it's a good reminder that not only do people get hurt when you throw stones, but you deserve to have the stone thrown at you as much as you're throwing at somebody else. So maybe that's reason enough not to do it.
Right. I think Barlow had a lot on his mind when he wrote this. I think he did have a bit of a prophet in him, seeing things.
Yeah.
But I also
Oh, yeah.
understand that he might have not have been the most fun person to hang out with, but that's a story I don't know personally. He might have been a little of a difficult personality, but a lot of artists can be. And he certainly is a poet, and not necessarily always the easiest to get along.
Well, they're dealing with, the song deals with a lot of anxiety, a lot of angst. I mean, it's, this is heavy stuff.
Absolutely.
So putting it to a danceable tune and making it upbeat is actually, isn't that a way that we handle the truth? Sometimes we need it. Think about like every bluegrass song in the world. I went down to the river and I drowned my baby. It's like, what, why, and it's banjo and harmonica and we're happy and upbeat. It's like, wait a minute. You just talked about murdering your girlfriend.
Dolly Parton's Jolene is not necessarily a happy song,
No.
The thread of
Yeah,
betrayal. Yeah. And,
You
that's the
stole-
thing.
you stole my man. Yeah.
Songs will bring out, those stories. To me, that's, throwing stones is like a statement of a song, it really is. It's a challenge when you get right down to it. It's a challenge to us to behave and act in such a way that God would be pleased that we were good stewards of what we have been entrusted with and what we've inherited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, and truth is always adaptable too, right? I mean, there are times that Bobby sang this song, drop them bombs and steal that oil, and, just made it fit to the moment. And it always does speak to the moment, doesn't it?
Mm. How many times has Neil Young altered after the gold rush from the 1970s? He sang that lyric, I've heard him say it in the 21st century. It's already evolved into that.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Makes sense. It makes sense. It needs to speak to the moment. Isn't that what you do when you preach, right? You take the old message and you interpret the exegesis is only part of it. You figure out what was being said, but then you got to work on, well, how does that speak to us today? What's the message?
Well, Ian, I appreciate you taking all of this and putting it together in something that people may want to watch. And I think we need to let everybody watching know that we look forward to your comments. We want to know what you like, what you don't like, what you would suggest, because we're just getting started. And we're learning as we go. And it's been kind of fun. And again, I appreciated getting to know Ian and some of the other people. We're going to have some other episodes coming soon if we get off our duffs and, get to it. I think we've got a lot of people who are interested. So,
which means that everyone watching should definitely hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the share button, hit any button you can find on the page, because that's how you feed the algorithm, and other people will find us that way. And spreading the word is what really matters.
Well, good night, everybody. We hope to see you again soon. And this is the Deadhead Rev and Ian Birdsong Lynch signing off.